My name is Ellis Corbin. For most of my adult life, I've been the person behind the person building other people's dreams so quietly that, eventually, they started acting like I was never there. I was the one who co-signed the lease, who paid the filing fees, who stayed up past midnight writing the mission statement while everyone else slept. I designed the first version of the logo, bought the domain, funded the website, and fronted the deposits that made our future feel real. And last month, inside the very dojo I helped create, my little sister stood in front of a packed open class, flipped her perfect ponytail, and smiled like a queen addressing her court. She just helps clean the mats, Marina said. The room laughed easy, casual laughter, the kind that doesn't think about where it lands. Then her fiancé, K Black Belt, local hero, everyone's favorite success story, tilted his head toward me like I was a prop and said, loud enough for the parents in the back row to hear, "Every dojo needs a punching bag." Before I could even form a response, he hooked my leg and swept me. I hit the mat hard enough to knock the air out of my lungs. More laughter. I remember the ceiling lights blurring as my hips started to throb. And I remember Cade's grin bright and practice like humiliation was part of the curriculum. What no one expected was what happened next. I stood up and 14 seconds later, Cade was the one on his back staring at the rafters, gasping like the room had stolen his oxygen. The class went silent in that sudden, electric way crowds do when they realize they've been laughing at the wrong person. But that wasn't the story. That was the spark. The real story started years earlier, back when I still believed loyalty meant swallowing things. Back when I thought being overlooked was just the cost of being reliable. Back when I truly believed my sister and I were building something together. We weren't. And this is the part they didn't plan for. I got tired of being edited out of my own life. I was never meant to be the face. Not in our family. Not in business, not even in the framed photos above our mother's mantle. That role belonged to Marina. Marina was sunlight effortless, loud, adored. She could walk into a room and make people lean toward her without even trying. And I was the scaffolding, necessary, invisible, and only noticed when something cracked. Our father used to train us both when we were young before the divorce. Before he moved south and his letters became the only way I heard his voice. He taught us breath control and balance, how to fall without breaking, how to stand back up when the world tried to keep you down. Marina lost interest by 15. I kept training in secret, finding dojos wherever I could, earning belts no one in my family ever asked to see. When Marina came to me about starting her own martial arts academy, she was 23 and speaking in bright, trendy nouns, community, empowerment, legacy. I listened. I asked practical questions. I did the boring math. 2 weeks later, I pulled half my savings and put it on the table. Because the landlord didn't care about vision boards. He cared about credit history and collateral. Marina had neither. I did so I signed. That first winter, we painted the walls ourselves. I traced the first Apex logo onto drywall with a cheap projector and painter's tape, while Marina filmed motivational clips in a crisp G. When the mats looked dull on camera, I adjusted the lighting. When the audio sounded hollow, I hung blankets to deaden the echo. Every interview, every local news feature, every rising young entrepreneur photo spread Marina in the center, smiling. Me behind the lens. Behind the curtain, behind the story. And I told myself I was fine with that. I told myself it was enough to know I mattered, even if no one said it out loud. But being erased doesn't feel dramatic at first. It feels like a slow leak, a quiet rot. It creeps in through tiny moments until one day you realize your name isn't on anything that counts. Not the signage, not the website credits. Not even the emergency contact sheet posted in the office. And then you start asking a question that hurts more than anger. If I disappeared tomorrow, would anyone even notice what changed? The first time Cade humiliated me in front of students, it wasn't an accident. It was a lesson. Not for me, for everyone watching. It was a Saturday demo class. Wall to wall with new parents and excited kids. I was setting up a drink station near the entrance, lining up paper cups printed with Coach Marina and Coach Cade in bold lettering. No cup said Ellis. None ever did. Cade strutted onto the mat like he was born there, confident, charming in that rehearsed way that makes people trust you before you've earned it. Let's demonstrate a reversal, he announced, then scanned the room like he was choosing someone for a trick. His eyes landed on me or Ellis. He called, stretching my name like it amused him. Come help me out. Don't worry, we'll keep it gentle. I walked forward because that's what I always did. I showed up. I helped. I kept things smooth. He didn't know I trained under Master Granton Wells for years during college. He didn't know I held rank he never bothered to ask about. He saw what he wanted to see. Someone smaller, someone quiet, someone safe to use. Cade nodded, stepped in and swept me hard. Clean technique. No warning. Maximum impact. The mat slapped my back. Pain flashed up my side. Laughter broke out from the edges. Parents, students, even a couple staff members who should have known better. Cade didn't offer a hand. He turned to the class and said, "That's what happens when you skip the fundamentals." I stayed down a second longer than necessary, not because I couldn't get up, but because something inside me fractured and I needed a moment to gather the pieces. That night, Apex's official Instagram posted the clip. My fall, Cade's punchline, the room laughing. Caption, know your fundamentals. Learn from real-life examples. By morning, it had thousands of views. The comments were worse. People calling me a joke, a pity volunteer, a middle-aged hobbyist. People tagging friends to laugh at me like I was a meme. When I texted Marina, she answered like I'd asked about a missing pen. Cade posts what gets engagement. She wrote, "Don't take it personally." But it was personal. It was a message. This is who you are here. Not a founder. Not a partner. Not family. A prop. I almost left. That Monday, I sat in my car outside the dojo with the engine running for 22 minutes. I had a text drafted on my phone, polite, quiet, the kind of exit that doesn't make waves. Taking a break. Hope the grand opening goes well. Thanks for everything. My thumb hovered over send. That version of me, the dependable older sister, the silent fixer, was one breath away from disappearing the way they always treated me, without ceremony. But I didn't send it. I shut off the car, walked around back, let myself in like I always did. Inside, the place smelled like eucalyptus cleaner and old ambition. I stocked the fridge, wiped counters, checked inventory, folded hand wraps. Marina drifted past at one point, laughing with Cade, and never once looked at me. Cade glanced my way like he was trying to remember where he'd seen me before. That night, I opened the bookkeeping app to pay bills and noticed a charge that didn't belong. Apex Systems Consulting, $1,150. I clicked it. Not new. Same amount. Same day every month, nearly 2 years back. My chest tightened as I scrolled. Apex Systems Consulting wasn't the front-facing name of the dojo. It was the back-end LLC, the one I helped Marina set up back when she wanted to look legitimate for potential investors. I remembered paying the filing fee, pulling the IN, writing the business description myself. That memory hit me like cold water. I got up, climbed into my closet, and dragged down the fireproof lockbox I hadn't opened in over a year. Inside were the documents I'd always told myself I'd never need. Tax forms, lease paperwork, incorporation filings. And buried underneath a stapled packet with a title that made my mouth go dry. Capital contribution and silent partner agreement. My name was on the first page. My signature. My handwriting. 33% of the startup capital in exchange for a silent ownership stake. Non-voting. Non-withdrawable without mutual consent. Quarterly reporting required. quarterly reporting I had never received because no one ever intended to give it. On the last page, Marina had signed with a pink gel pen and scribbled a note that used to feel like affection. Just a formality. Ellis. You're the best. It didn't read like affection anymore. It read like a con. And as I sat there, remembering the nights I fixed the website, rewrote pitch decks, edited grant proposals, and quietly paid down Marina's credit card so she wouldn't implode. Before a press interview, I realized something sickening. They didn't just erase me from the story. They kept me in the fine print. I didn't want a fight based on emotion. I wanted facts, clean, undeniable, documented facts. The next morning, I drove to towns over to see Regina Dorsey, a CPA a client once described as the nicest person who will also ruin your life if you try something shady. Her office was quiet rows of binders, lemon polish, the calm hum of someone who lives inside numbers all day. Regina listened without interrupting. Then she went through my documents with methodical precision. Highlighter, pen, mouse clicks. Finally, she looked up. They used your position to secure a business loan last year, she said. I blinked. I didn't sign a loan. You didn't need to, she replied. Your equity contribution was part of the collateral package. Your credit and your silence made you useful. My hands went cold. Is that legal? Regina exhaled slowly. Legally defensible. Ethically filthy. Then she added, if they're leveraging your name while shutting you out, you have leverage back. More than you think. She explained that as a documented equity holder, I had standing to demand financial disclosures, to challenge decisions made without proper governance, and if it came to it, to force a buyout or dissolution. The board that Marina had assembled to impress investors wasn't just decorative. It had fiduciary duties. Duties she'd been ignoring. Regina offered to draft protective paperwork while I decided my next move. I didn't commit to anything on the spot, but I walked out with a slim blue folder and a feeling I hadn't had in years. I wasn't trapped, and I wasn't powerless. On the drive home, I remembered something else, something small but crucial. The Dojo's domain registration, the admin login for their original website hosting. I'd set it up. In my name. Funny what happens when people treat you like you don't matter. They stop checking what you still hold. That night, I didn't rage text. I didn't cry on the kitchen floor. I didn't call friends to rehearse the betrayal out loud. I did something quieter, something older. I opened a contact I hadn't messaged in over a decade. Master Granton Wells, retired Marine. My father's old friend. The first person who ever taught me how to breathe while getting hit. I typed 2 sentences. I want to train again. For real. His reply came 10 minutes later. Before dawn. Bring your belt. And that's when the shift happened, not from revenge, not from humiliation, but from alignment. I wasn't going to beg for respect. I was going to become undeniable. The Boston Open smelled the way every competition hall smells: bleach, sweat, nerves, and adrenaline. But this time, I wasn't there holding a clipboard or filming someone else's highlight reel. This time, my name was printed on the bracket. Ellis Corbin, alternate, black belt division, legal, earned, mine. Master Wells had helped me register months earlier. Knowing that alternates sometimes step in when competitors withdraw due to injury or scheduling conflicts. It was a long shot, but it was a door. 3 matches went by before the announcement cracked through the loudspeaker. Due to a last-minute withdrawal, alternate Ellis Corbin has been placed in match 42. My lungs tightened. Match 42. Cade's match. I walked toward the mat slowly, feeling eyes track me. Whispers surfaced like static. A couple people lifted phones. Isn't that the woman from that video? Across the mat, Cade stood with his arms crossed, calm, confident, untouchable until his gaze met mine. Then the recognition landed. And that familiar smirk spread across his face like he thought the world was about to hand him another punchline. Cade. leaned in toward the referee before we started, murmured something under his breath, then straightened and stared at me the way you look at a typo annoyed it exists, certain you're about to delete it. I bowed anyway, not for him, for the mat, for the work, for the fact that I was finally here as myself, not as someone's assistant. He dipped his head back like it cost him money. Didn't know they were letting charity entries into black belt, he said, just loud enough to land. I gave him nothing. No glare. No flinch. Not even a smile. The referee brought a hand down. Kate exploded forward immediately, big, fast, and careless in the way men get when they've never been punished for arrogance. His weight poured into the attack. He was trying to end it early, make it a story where he still got the last laugh. He overreached. My feet moved before my thoughts did. Angle off, turn the shoulder, catch the collar. My body remembered what my pride had spent years pretending it didn't need. Base, timing, breath. There's a moment in every exchange, half a blink, when someone commits too much and can't take it back. I felt it. I took it. I redirected his momentum, slipped to the side, dragged the arm across, and dropped my weight like a door slamming shut. Hook, drive, pressure. His lungs emptied on impact. His hand slapped the mat. The whistle cut through the air. 14 seconds for a beat. Nobody reacted. The silence wasn't polite, it was stunned, heavy, like the whole gym had to reorient itself around a reality it didn't plan for. Then one clap, then another. Not roaring applause, something slower, more uncertain. Because people were trying to decide what the moment meant, Cade rolled onto his knees, chest heaving. He wouldn't meet my eyes. He didn't bow. He stood up and walked off the mat like the floor had betrayed him, past the official, past the crowd, straight out through the doors, as if leaving quickly could undo what happened. I stayed kneeling for a second longer, breathing in through my nose, out through my mouth. Not for drama, not to savor it. Just to be present for the part of my life I used to let happen to me. I bowed again, this time to the years I'd swallowed my voice. The way I trained myself to disappear, to keep peace. At the boundary line, Master Wells stood with his hands folded behind his back. He didn't clap. He didn't celebrate. He nodded once and said, quiet and steady, that's holding your line. Behind him, Marina was frozen at the barrier, eyes wide, lips parted like she'd walked in ready to narrate the scene and suddenly couldn't find words. I didn't walk over to her. I didn't give her the satisfaction of a confrontation she could reshape into her version later. Instead, I reached into my bag and pulled out something small and ordinary, a gray towel. Washed 100 times, edges worn soft. It still carried a faint trace of tiger. Balm if you held it close enough. The same towel Cade once tossed at my feet like I was there to wipe up after him. I walked to the spot in the gym where weeks earlier he'd swept me for laughs, where the class had giggled, where the video had gone up, where I'd been turned into content. I folded the towel neatly, folded it again, and placed it down with care. No speech. No point made with volume. Just a quiet marker. I remember. I was here. I'm still here. Then I stepped off the mat. By the next morning, the clip was everywhere. Tournament pages, fight highlights, martial arts forums, Instagram reels with dramatic music stitched over the top, Reddit threads dissecting frame by frame like it was a myth they'd just witnessed. People put captions on it like 14 seconds of karma. And when the punching bag can actually fight. I didn't share it. I didn't comment. I didn't correct anyone's narrative. Because for once, the truth didn't need me to carry it on my back. But silence is threatening to the wrong kind of people. 2 days later, a post popped up on a major martial arts board, written like a concerned insider expose. Manufactured sympathy. Scripted strength. It accused me of playing victim for attention. Suggested I'd bribed my way into the bracket. Claimed the match was a staged humiliation designed to embarrass Cade. Stitched together with freeze frames, out of context screenshots. Bold captions like, look at the ref, look at the timing, this is marketing. It was sloppy. It was loud, and it was meant to push me back into the role they preferred, apologizing for existing. I didn't feel rage. I felt something cleaner. Clarity. I opened my files and built a package the way you build a case when you're done asking to be treated fairly. Ownership agreement. Bank ledger showing the recurring charges. Loan documentation. Screenshots with timestamps. Email headers. My black belt certification. My training history under Wells. The official Boston Open placement letter and bracket confirmation. No emotion. Just paper. I sent it to the tournament organizers, the forum moderators, and the National Martial Arts Association. 3 hours later, the post was gone. 2 hours after that, the site issued a formal apology. They regretted publishing unverified and defamatory claims. My credentials were valid. I remained in good standing. The result was legitimate. No hashtags. No celebration. Just a rare thing on the internet. A retraction. And for once, the silence didn't erase me. It corrected the record. That Friday, I sat at the head of a long oak table inside a community bank's boardroom. Glass water pitchers. Blinds pulled halfway down. The kind of room where decisions get made quietly and then echoed loudly elsewhere. The Apex board had called an emergency session after receiving my formal complaint and supporting documentation. 5 members in person, 2 on video. Regina Dorsey had prepared them for what was coming: the financial irregularities, the undisclosed loans, the failure to honor reporting requirements to an equity stakeholder. Master Wells sat beside me, not as my attorney, not as my mouthpiece, as witness, as someone who could say, with credibility, I know who did the work. When he spoke, his voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. She was there before the first student ever walked in. He said she was there when the mats were laid, when the walls were painted, when the lease almost fell apart and someone else's credit kept the doors from staying locked. The Boston Open official verified my placement, the bracket change, the match conditions, the checks that were done. Fact stacked on fact. Marina sat at the opposite end of the table, smaller than I'd ever seen her. Cade wasn't there. He'd refused to attend, which the board noted. The vote came quick. 5-2. Marina was removed as executive director. Cade was banned indefinitely from all Apex-affiliated events, instruction, and media. One board member turned to me and asked, carefully, will you be stepping in? I shook my head. I'm not here to become the next face, I said. I'm here to get back what was taken: my name, my stake, and the respect that should have never been treated like optional. No speech, no triumph, just a boundary. That night my phone buzzed. I didn't need the screen to know who it was. Marina's voice on the other end was smaller than I'd ever heard it, brittle, like pride held together with thread. You always had a way of making me feel like I wasn't enough, she said. I didn't argue. I didn't soothe. I didn't accept the bait of rewriting history into something where I was the villain. I never needed you to feel small, I said, as evenly as I could. I just needed to exist beside you without being reduced. There was a pause, the kind that says, I hear you, but I don't know how to live with what that means. Then the line went dead. I set the phone down and breathed in, then out. Some people confuse quiet with surrender, but this quiet wasn't surrender. It was me ending the conversation at the exact point where it stopped being honest. 2 days later, a padded envelope arrived at my clinic. No return address. But the handwriting stopped me cold, clean, slanted, familiar. My father's. Inside was a single sheet of line paper, folded into thirds. LSU never chased applause. And that's why you were always dangerous. Let them be loud. You've been first where it mattered. Dottie didn't cry immediately. I held the paper with both hands like it might vanish if I loosened my grip. Then the tears came quiet, steady. Not grief exactly. More like something inside me finally unclenched. He must have seen the video. Someone must have sent it to him. Or maybe he'd been watching all along, in his own quiet way. The way I'd been working all along in mine. That evening, I didn't text Marina back. I didn't post. I didn't answer the new wave of online praise from people who only respect what they can watch in high definition. I went home, rolled out the same training mat in my living room, set my phone on a small tripod, knelt in the center. I reached for the gray towel the 1K tossed at my feet, the one I laid down in Boston like a flag. I folded it carefully, precisely, and placed it beside me. I hit record. 30 seconds of silence. No caption. No performance. No angle designed for approval. Then I stopped recording and uploaded it to a private channel. Not for an audience. For proof to myself that I no longer needed permission to take up space. 6 months later, I run a small training program out of an old community center in New Haven. The mats shift if you pivot to hard. The fluorescent lights buzz even when they're off. The paint in the hallway has been touched up so many times it looks like a timeline. But it's mine. We train twice a week, no trophies. No theatrics. We train for breath, for balance, for the feeling of standing inside your own body and not apologizing for it. A retired teacher who wants her knees strong again. A nurse coming back from surgery. A mother rebuilding her life after leaving a home that made her flinch at footsteps. None of them care about followers. They care about sleep, about confidence, about walking to their cars without scanning the shadows. Last Thursday, someone new paused at the doorway, hood up, no makeup. Eyes down. Marina. She didn't step in right away. Just stood there like the room had weight. I didn't know you taught here, she said. I don't advertise, I replied. She nodded once, and her voice cracked in a place she tried to hide. I didn't realize how badly I needed to learn from someone who doesn't need to be seen. She stayed. She sat along the wall and watched the whole session without interrupting, without trying to own the moment. When class ended, she bowed not to me, but to the room, to the work, to the quiet dignity of people rebuilding themselves. That was enough. The next morning, a short note appeared under my door. I watched the video. I finally saw you. I hope it's not too late. Marina didn't respond. I folded the note and placed it in a wooden box at home beside my father's letter. Not forgiveness, not revenge. Just acknowledgement. Because power isn't always the loud win. It isn't always the takedown. It isn't always proving someone wrong in public. Sometimes power is simple. Sometimes it looks like laying a towel down on a mat quietly, carefully, and knowing you will never again need to explain why you deserve to be there.